Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Ferdiana Puspa Paturachman from Diploma 3 Accounting 2018, and today I want to tell you about my scientific paper with the title Analyzes the Record of Consumable Material Purchase and Expense Based on Indonesia Accounting Standard Non-Publicly Accountable Entities or SAKETAP at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia. First, I want to tell you about introduction, background of the problem. Purchase of consumable material based on SAKETAP by PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia is recorded in the purchase journal, and consumable material expense are recorded in the general expense summary without being recorded in the adjusting journal. On the other hand, the purchase account is used to record merchandise, while auxiliary materials or supplies are recorded in the supplies account, then adjusted and reported as a supplies expense account when referring to SAKETAP stated by Nur Kamsiah on 2016. Dewi et al. On 2019 state that if the recording, measuring, and charging in the cost of auxiliary materials or supplies were misstatements, there was an error in the information about the adequacy of the remaining materials or supplies and an error in determining the selling price. Information asymmetry makes the quality of financial reports minimal, then has an impact on investment efficiency and shareholder decisions, stated by Purba and Suwaryana at 2018. So, it is important to know how to record the purchase and loading of consumable material based on SAKETAP by the company, and to know whether the recording or purchase and loading of consumable material at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia has complied with SAKETAP. Thus, the author formulates the title of the research, analyzes the record of consumable material purchase and expense based on Indonesian accounting standard non-publicly accountable entities at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia. Then, formulation of the problem. First, how to record the purchase and expense of consumable materials based on SAKETAP at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia. Second, is the recording of the consumable materials purchase and expense on PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia complying with SAKETAP? Then, from the formulation of the problem, writing purposes are to find out how to record purchase and expense for consumable material based on SAKETAP at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia, and to determine the suitable of recording purchase and expense of consumable material with SAKETAP at PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia. Then, writing benefits in theory 6 are completing the shortcomings of previous research and expanding knowledge about SAKETAP in industrial service business. Then, writing benefits in practical. First, for students of accounting study program, this scientific paper provides research reference on similar topics with the development of more specific variables and increased insight into the application of accounting standards. Second, for PT KMPD Hitesh Indonesia, this scientific paper or work is a benchmark for improvement in implementing SAKETAP and a reference for how to record consumable material purchase and expense. Third, for medium-scale industrial service company, this scientific paper is a reference for knowledge about the application of SAKETAP in recording, measuring, and disclosing consumable material procurement transactions. And the last one, for the author, this scientific work or paper is a medium of applying knowledge related to accounting standards, basic bookkeeping, and accounting cycles. Then we're entering the chapter 2 of this scientific paper, theoretical review and writing methodology. First, there are theory description about the essence of financial statement, SAKETAP, small and medium-scale industrial services, and consumable material recognition and measurement. The financial statement is a summary of the economic impact from each company's business activities stated by Palepu et al. At 2021. Then, Indonesian Accounting Standard Non-Publicly Accountable Entities or SAKETAP is a standard for recording, measuring, and reporting financial information for entities without public accountability, stated by Effendi at 2015 on his book titled Accounting Principle. Then, the small and medium-scale industrial services are the service industries for other parties with 19 to 20 workforce and between less than 1 billion until a maximum 50 million rupiah investment value. Then, consumable material is included in the type of assets in the form of factory supplies or processing service with the recognition and measurement policy referring to SAKETAP Chapter 11 regarding inventories. Then, we're entering relevant research. First, there is Lesari et al. In their research on the application of SAKETAP in the confection business explained that the purchasing account records the procurement of raw materials, while the supplies cost account records the procurement of goods and auxiliary materials. And second, there Kamsia et al. 2016 in their research on the application of SAKETAP in the financial statements of merchandising business and computer service explains that the procurements of merchandise is recorded in the purchase account while service supplies are recorded in the supplies account, which at the end of the period is adjusted as supplies expense. So from the relevant research and theory description, I have the framework of thinking for this scientific paper, as you can see in the slides. And writing methodology. First, place and time of research. The research was conducted at PT Heritage Indonesia, date 23 November 2020 till 23 January 2021. Then research methods. The method used is the descriptive method. And third, data collection is done through interviews, observations, and documentations to obtain primary data and through literature review by websites such as Google Scholar, BookSG, and Oxford Reference to obtain secondary data. And then the data collected is processed through qualitative analysis procedures. First, starting with observations, interviews, and documentations related to measurements of consumable material practice. And second, data processing through descriptive research and qualitative approach. And then the results of the analysis are described starting from the purpose of procuring consumable materials to journaling and reporting that on SAKETAP. And now we have to entering the chapter 3 of my scientific paper. There is discussions. First, we're entering case description. PT Heritage Indonesia have a corporation operational as heat treatment service process corporations. So they need to purchase consumable materials for machinery and factory equipment. And they do consumable material records, which are purchased from consumable material record in purchase journal. But the use of material isn't routinely recorded in a systematic and uncoordinated manner. So it impacts the inaccurate expense of consumable material. As compliance with the implementation of SAKETAP in PT Heritage Indonesia, consumable material accounting treatment should be means supplies whose use is recognized as an expense. Purchase account shouldn't be used to record consumable material purchase, because purchase account to record the procurement of merchandise or raw material. And then impact of improper recording of consumable material. It allows for misinformation about the adequacy of usable stock and encourage selling price fixing. that leads to information asymmetry and investment inefficiency. So this is the case analysis. First, entering consumable material apportionment practice. In this slide, you can see that the type of corporation is processing heat treatment surfaces for hardening and preparing the structure of customer spare parts. So the purpose of apportionment of consumable materials are to be the fuel, to the lubricant, supporting materials, spare parts, sandpaper filling, spare part surface to clear the machine, and resin or plastic wrapping, factory employee supplies, and machine temperature grade paper. So this is the consumable material purchase recapitulation subject to VAT. And this is the consumable material purchase recapitulation not subject to VAT. Recording of consumable material purchase for the 2020 period. Consumable material purchase journals formatted by PT KMP Heritage Indonesia are mixed with the purchase of equipment and supporting service journal that are subject to VAT in. The value recorded in the purchase account is in accordance with the recognition of the purchase cost of consumable material based on SAK-ETA. Chapter 11 concerning inventories, but the classification isn't correct because it should be presented separately from the purchase of equipment and service. The following is how the Finance and Accounting Division records consumable material purchase transactions that are subject to VAT in. They record date, then they record purchase and VAT in debit on account payable or cash in credit. And then there are purchase of other consumable material that are not subject to VAT, such as gas and gloves, are recorded as spare parts and office supplies expense in the accounts payable data, cash disbursements journal, and general expense summary. The Finance and Accounting Division note first they note date, and then spare part or office supplies expense in debit on account payable or cash in credit. Then we discuss about the consumable material expense data for 2020 period. The Finance and Accounting Divisions of PT KMP Heritage Indonesia records our purchase of consumable materials both in the purchase journal, cash disbursement journal, and that data into the general expense summary. They recognition full price of the consumable material purchase in the general expense summary. Then recording of consumable material purchase based on SAK-ETA that author formulated to this scientific paper, as you can see in the slides. The purpose of procuring consumable materials refers to the Indonesian Accounting Standard Non-Publicly Accountable Entities or SAK-ETA Chapter 11 number 1.c, which is in the form of materials or supplies used when processing productions or providing services. Consumable materials can be regarded as factory supplies that include functional goods in expediting the process belong to the provision of services according to FND 2015 in his book Accounting Principle. And this is the recording of consumable material expense based on SAK-ETA. Based on the actual remaining consumable material data as of December 2020, which was submitted by the Production and PPC Division plus the completeness of the purchase journal and that data, the remaining consumable material adjustment table is obtained as follows. And then recording of consumable material expense based on SAK-ETA must be recording the adjustment to remaining consumable material is measured as the adjustment to the remaining supplies at the end of the period based on SAK etap, namely with the formulation first consumable material purchase, reduction consumable material per 31 December 2020, and then we get consumable material use as 2020. And at this slide, you can see the adjusting journal, account on profit or loss statement, and financial position statement. How to record the consumable material as factory supplies, and how to expense the consumable material at the end of period as factory supplies expense. So, the impact of recording purchases and expenses for consumable materials are selling price determination most likely inaccurate. Then, consumable material procurement decision, possibly shortage of stock while the process is running or excess stock that triggers waste. Then, misstatement of information. Financial reports become less actual and less reliable to investors. So the conclusion are consumable material procurement transaction at PT KMPD Heritage Indonesia is recording in the purchase journal, which also includes the purchase of equipment and service. And then consumable material charge are recorded for the total purchase price per month in the general expense summary without being taken into account with the actual remaining consumable materials and without being recorded in the adjusting journal. Second, PT KMPD Heritage Indonesia hasn't implemented the concept of recognizing, measuring, and disclosing the purchase and expense of consumable materials based on SAK etap. So the suggestions from authors to us in practically for PT KMPD Heritage Indonesia, companies need to fully implement SAK etap, including for the recognition, measurement, and disclosure of purchase and expense for consumable material, tying up purchase data collection as well as the imposition of consumable material, and also ensure the classification of accounting items according to the purpose of the transaction. And then in theoretically for students can add more specific independent variables such as tools related to the application of SAK etap to data collection techniques for supply stock taking in industrial service corporations, and vary the object of research by examining industrial service corporation and change in other fields. Thank you for your attention. I hope your suggestions as my feedback to presenting this scientific paper. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.